Hello, hello! Back again. Here we are in this room where I made my virtual violin making academy here with Anna together, and then somehow by making a video here on this working bench we somehow feel a little bit last summer when we were recording everything and we're still cutting. It's a huge thing. But today we are making this video about my new project, and probably you saw it already like half a year ago that I was talking about this decorated instrument I'm working on. And now you're asking how comes he's talking with his double bass in the hand. At the time I was making this double bass for the violin making competition, I was thinking of making a decoration on the back of this cello, of this double bass, and it was just beginning of summer that I went with my mother and my father to Ireland. It was probably 2017, I guess, or maybe 16, who knows, maybe 15. Time passed very quick. Anyhow, I had time with my mother. My mother is the artist in the family, just as my brother. And so we came out with a drawing a little bit like this. This is actually the original drawing with a pencil on a photocopy of a back of a double bass. So this was the drawing. Then I made it bigger and bigger, and then I put it on the back of a double bass. Yeah. This here is now on the upper side. Yeah. And here you can see this here on the lower side, and I made it with a handcrafted purfling, which I got from a guy who is making only purfling for violin, cello, double bass, custom made. We were choosing out of many options, and then I got this special handcrafted purfling he made for me. And yeah, then I decorated the double bass here on the back side with this, and on the top side here with this. I put it mainly because it was a very it's not flamed, it's pear wood, which flat, and it looks also really flat. It's pretty boring, so I thought, come on, let's do something here, and that's why I designed this. Now, I did it only on the back. On the ribs, I made it with a pencil, very, very light, because in this violin competition at that time it was not allowed actually to do more on a cello. Probably it would have punished the instrument because of special decoration on the double bass. That's somehow accepted. Indeed, it was the best sounding double bass of that competition, but they didn't sign gold and silver, and that's okay. For me, I was the winner because it was very good sounding bass. And I still have it. It has been sold, and then I came back and I exchanged it with a slight arching, because in the country where I sold this double bass at that time, this flat bass created too much tensions. That's why I put back so this flat, but they sound super good and it's still sounding great. Now, we go back to our issue of that I like to make decorated instruments. Now, we're not talking about if you love it or not. I just think it's from the point of view of making it, I think it's just really challenging. And so when a friend of mine came to Cremona and saw the pictures of the violin I made 10 years ago for the Sultan of Oman bin Said Qaboos, he saw that one. That was still the most expensive violin ever being made, with 427 diamonds, 17 saborites and 70 rubies. And to keep all these stones without any vibrations on the violin, we had to put it on gold, and then even the purfling was gold and things like this. So it was very precious and very nice and good sounding, by the way. And this is actually what attracts me to this entire thing. That I think it has to be working. It's okay that it's influencing on its sound, but together with all that, it has to create a perfect sound. And that's what is actually the fuel for me to create something like this. And so my old school friend, I made the high school with him together, Karl Großschädel, I call him Charlie, is a good friend, and he is always open for crazy ideas, apparently crazy. And so he told me, hey Edgar, I have an idea. Okay, went up to Austria, met him and his colleague he knows, Kurt Assam from Austria. And they offered me to make something particular, a decorated instrument with a very new and great material, osmium. Yeah. On the chemistry it is OS, and it is a powder actually. It's the heaviest material on planet Earth, and it's you can how do you call it, melt it at I guess over 3,200 degrees Celsius. And if you put it under high pressure, it starts to make crystalline, and that's actually what the Osmium Institute from Ingo in Germany is doing. So they somehow know the owner, Ingo, and I also got to meet him with Skype calls, and we somehow agreed on a partnership, and we created now this whole project. The design was created with my mother. I used, which I showed you already on the drawings, and this is the concept, and so we started to use this design on this new violin. In the beginning I thought, hey, never change a winning horse, let's take the Stradivari Hellier, which sounds great, and is just very large and perfectly for such an instrument. But then actually I decided to make a specific mold for this whole entire instrument. Parallel to this whole thing, I had a customer who was asking me to make my personal model, just by a chance, same name, this guy. So I created a special mold, which is, this here is the Osmium 2021, and the mold is very particular, very long open Cs, and the upper part is tiny, but still the measurements are similar like the Stradivari Hellier. I made the long open Cs, more the lines like a Stradivari, but the size and how much it is open, even more open than a Guarnieri, which gives the whole sound a very specific, strong, powerful character with a never-ending potential of sound, and that was actually what I was looking for. So I designed this model. This whole shape does not exist worldwide. It's not a Storione, a Stradivari, a Testore, no, it's an Edgar Russ, and that's exactly what we want to realize. And we will decorate this instrument with a double purfling, which will later be on with pure gold. And in between we have triangles with osmium, and every triangle, they're about on the top and on the back, about 300 of these triangles, and they're all captured in a tiny thin gold line outside. Otherwise if you smash this osmium into the wood, looks a little bit unfinished, I think. And we always have this design which I created on the lower area, on the larger, in all the corners. So it's pretty rich with this double purfling, with triangles and with precious stones, diamonds, rubies, serverites and smeralds, the blue ones, right? I'm getting here like a jeweler. And all of this, certainly none of these hundreds of pieces, I think it is more than, have 730 something pieces of osmium, and then we have the stones, and probably more than 1,000 pieces altogether on the decoration. And this should also sound as good as possible, yeah? And even on the pegs we will have this design, always with the osmium and the gold. And then we have this tiny ring. I just went to my jewelry, got it here, still has to finish it. They're now roughly made. These tiny rings out of pure gold. Put these tiny rings on the peg, and then he still has to clean it, and then will come on all these tiny stones, a little bit, a few diamonds, and satellite and rubies and smaragds, yeah? Just to get a little bit more color, right? But on the end side of the peg, we have a piece of osmium, yeah? So this is the other side of the peg here, so you get to see a little bit of osmium. I don't have it here, so if you come and try to steal it, it is not here. Even so, I have a safe, but the door of the safe is always open, by the way. Yeah, there's nothing inside. Yeah, this is just like this. And this comes on, this one I have 4 times for 4 pegs. Yeah. The material itself is very thin, 0.4 to 0.6 millimeters. On the back side it's completely flat. Probably they have some surface where this whole material is laid down when it is heated up and under high pressure. And on the other side it is a little bit like diamonds, right? And it is very heavy. And if you would sell it by weight, it's about 70, 80, probably even more than 80 times of gold now. Yeah. The ribs of my osmium violin I have already bent, and when you decorate them, I still have to elaborate all these kind of things here. Then in all these black spaces from here to here, this will be osmium with gold around, right? And here in these tiny dots here there come these precious stones, just a little bit to make it a little bit more happy. The ribs itself of an instrument are actually, and this is again a very challenging part, are actually a little bit like the chassis of a car. So if you would damage the maple ribs too much by these decorations, cutting them out and putting in this precious material, you would actually lose extremely much of vibrations and sound, and we don't certainly want that. So I created the ribs first with 0.5 of maple, and then I put it on a layer of carbon fiber, tissue of carbon fiber, soaked, and we put it on. A special expert on this, who usually is making prototypes for Lamborghini and Ferrari, helped me to do so. So we sent back and forth the ribs, and first time we sent it was even broken. So then we had to figure out this new system that everything is big blocks, so nothing is going to be damaged, and then we had to screw it on a big plate of something with another big plate in order that they are protected. And then I glued on again a second layer of maple. So you have maple, carbon fiber, maple, okay? And only the last thin 0.5 of maple is actually with this cutting. Now the cutting I made first on flat ribs, and then I band it. Since they are 0.5, it was very easy to band. But nevertheless, I have over there tons of ribs which have been broken. It wasn't that easy, I have to admit. I thought it would be easier, especially in this area. Here it's so thin, so you don't have to bend actually in this area, but it's just like a eye flip and it's already broken. And then you certainly have to glue it in, that the design is exactly the same space from the edge, and left and right has all to be centered, right? This was pretty challenging, and yeah. Now it looks a little bit shaky like this because I had to make the wood preparation with the casein, you know, I like that very much first. And then I put it on also a layer of shellac to prevent that the resin I use to glue on the ribs on the carbon fiber doesn't penetrate the wood itself. So once the instrument completely is finished, you cannot see that there is carbon fiber somewhere in between. Yeah? And that's actually the reason why I put it also inside the wood, so that when you look into the violin, it always looks like a traditional, perfect violin. Okay? And only if people are watching this video right now, they will understand what I did. Okay? Who knows if in a few hundred years. So this is here somehow what I'm doing here on this one. On the other side, I'm waiting to have all the other parts here ready to get started, because I don't really trust on all the measurements, because indeed we put it to be able to cut this material. I don't have here now the paper, the CNC drawing, which has been created on a I don't know how this whole program is called, AutoCAD maybe? No, I know AutoCAD is something different. Somehow something like this, a technical drawing, because they needed that to cut out that osmium with a specific machinery, which I did not understand if it is now laser or water, I don't know. It's just that every piece has to be cut out of a square part, and this is also something a little bit difficult to understand or to imagine. So they cut it out. It should be all the same, but it is not, especially when these guys who make the gold part around, they wanted to make it 300 times, you know, roughly out, and then they just refine it by hand. It was a big issue because it wasn't that easy. Yeah? What is the machinery's measurements didn't fit what the other ones did, so we had to every single step we have to double check, and it takes about 2 weeks every time. So we have now made pieces here for the ribs, yeah, and that's what I wanted to show you here. I keep them like this, so I hope I don't fall down, and I just wanted to show you. So here we have like an envelope. It's all written nicely in German. Zagen means ribs. And now we have here many tiny envelopes. Okay. And in these envelopes we have every single piece. Now you certainly would love to see them all outside, but I'm terrified, extremely terrified, that I take them out and then I don't know the code of every single piece, because every single piece has like a fingerprint, and with this fingerprint you can detect out of a database the exact value and the characteristics of that tiny piece of osmium. Okay, so we have like here, this is a nice piece, for instance, of the ribs, yeah, and this is like the point. I don't know if you can see it like this. You can see that this piece goes in this area, yeah, you see that right this. Now you can tell already that this piece is bigger than what I have carved initially on my ribs, yeah, so I can put it somehow into the ribs, but actually I still have to carve a little bit. So I need to move it a little bit more down and put this pin inside, and the entire drawing is made in a way that this here does not point out, and it goes a little bit in the whole thing without being disturbed by being bent. So we have now, I don't know how I can show you better, but we don't need to make the whole thing here now ready. It's just here something like this, and then I can maybe search another piece and so you see, you get a little bit the impression this is not the right one, this one here. Yeah, and like this, these are now 2 bags. We have to make like a map of the entire, you see, now it doesn't fit. I'm glad it doesn't fit, because otherwise it would be ugly if it fits now already. So I have to go through the whole thing, cut them all by hand, adjust them, and then put them back into the tiny bags, right? And once they're back in the tiny bags and all the numbers are all signed up, and I need to make like a plan of which part is where on the instrument, then I will varnish these ribs. And once they're varnished, then I can actually start completing, putting on all these things here and the ribs. Yeah? So you get already a little bit the idea of how this precious instrument will look like later on. And yeah, that's a little bit what I'm going to do for the next 2 months. Just to work on it, and at the end of every day we bring it into a big safe close by, but not here in the workshop. I don't have the right infrastructure, so my hours will be limited to work on it here, and I need to do many other things before I actually apply the osmium. So I try to have only little osmium here, and yeah, I don't know how long it will take me to complete the whole thing. We have already all the parts. I just need to make the second part of the purfling and clean the arching, and operate here on the scroll, because I want to make on the center line all the stones, and I'm still thinking of how I'm going to get here some stones in here, but I will find a way. There are some questions I still need to figure out. Yeah? So that's a little bit what I'm going to make here, and I would say give me a little bit of time, and I hope I can show you very soon some more. Okay? See you soon. Bye bye.